back. It's been 2 weeks since we were here on the Eagles Nest podcast.
Yeah.
One was I don't know why.
I was on vacation and then we got
you're
back from vacation.
back from vacation, and well, I said no yes last Monday because I had
A lot of moving parts.
I had to be in Elkhorn early for something.
Closing.
I'm sure it was really important.
Yeah.
Closing, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
important. Taking care of clients. Okay. Anyway, so Eagles Nest podcast, of course, as always, my name is Brad Brewer, and we are on the Eagle Homes team. That's a mouthful today for some reason.
He's
Brokered by Coldwell Banker Realty. And I'm, of course, here with
Vince Devall, also here with the Eagle Homes team, brokered by Coldwell Banker.
Told you it was a mouthful.
Yeah, so today we're talking about 2024 versus 2025 Q1. So let's jump right in. We're running a little bit late. How was your weekend?
It was
busy.
good. It was busy. Got a lot going on at the house right now. Well, more details to come there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so busy weekend, and actually I was running a fever Saturday night. I don't know what caused it, and my stomach was bothering me. But that's all passed now.
Thank God.
Wonderful.
So this close to him.
It's a great Monday morning. I don't know what it was. It's a 24-hour thing, not even 24-hour thing, like a 12-hour thing. But anyway.
Yeah.
So exactly, Vince. We are going to talk about 2024 versus 2025, the market kind of comparisons in some different areas.
Yeah, right. So the first quarter of 2025, Southeast Wisconsin. We're going to start with Wisconsin. We'll dive into Illinois a little bit. Saw 882 units sold with an average list price of $382,494.
Okay.
Now, here's the kicker. The sold price was only $373,000 roughly. So, and we currently have about 933 active listings with a list price of $555,000. Okay.
Wow.
So that's average list price of what's still active, guys. Now that tells you the higher price point, the longer you're on market. Okay. Especially if our average is at the lower end of things. So
yeah, those actually are pretty significant numbers. And when we look at some of the active listings that are higher average list price, that's kind of that's really standing out to that number. I feel like it's a lot higher average than last year.
Yep.
I think there's a couple things that might be doing that. One is the inventory that's still tight in desirable areas is pushing up those list prices. Two, sellers are testing the market, seeing if the buyers are willing to pay for this type of environment.
Right.
And, obviously we're going to take a look at how that compares to Q1 of 2024. But also I'm thinking too is there's just inventory is super low, and I don't even know if it exists much in that 200 to 300. It exists.
300 is like the new first time home buyer. Let's hope you get some. Let's hope you steal a deal out there.
It is. There's definitely some ways that you can get.
At least in Wisconsin.
Yeah, there's some pockets here where you can get that 200 range. 150 is tough. I hate to say it, but I don't really know that exists, which I wish it did. But even the 200s, there's some things you're just going to have to realize you have to deal with.
Correct.
But like I said, yeah, how does this compare to 2024?
So compared to 2024, in 2024, we saw 951 units sold. So we sold, roughly about 70 more units, and this is all from the Metro MLS. Mm-hmm. When we get to Illinois, it's from the MRED, their MLS. So in 2024, we're talking about Southeast Wisconsin, Kenosha, Walworth, and Racine counties. 951 units. So 70 more units sold a year ago.
Okay.
The average list price is about $11,000 less.
Interesting.
So $371,000 today or a year ago, versus $385,000. Okay. Now the sold price, same thing, $364,000. Okay, versus $373,000. Now the one stat I didn't put on there is last year we were about 97%, 98% list to sold price. Okay. Today we're at 95% list to sold price. So homes are selling for a little bit less than list price. Okay. Is what we're seeing. Okay. And then we're at have days on market on there. Oh, we'll get to that in just a minute. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that slight decrease in sales volume is something we're seeing across the board and in a lot of different areas, not only in Wisconsin, but across the country. It's not a dramatic drop. but I think, that does indicate that there is some, probably potentially some hesitation from buyers on that. We're also seeing, some of the impact of interest rates, while they've stabilized somewhat. They're still higher than they were a year ago, which is definitely something that's, affects affordability, of course, especially with the prices going up, because you're borrowing more money at higher interest rates. I think we're gonna see a little bit of a downtick in interest rates. I just have this feeling based on some of the other things that are going on. We're not gonna get into
The politics of it.
politics of it. Based on the economics of it, I can see it. And I know interest rates did drop a bit last week. I wasn't really paying a ton of attention. I had a lot of other things going on with sellers. Quite frankly, just didn't care about interest rates because they weren't buying again. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that's, where we at.
Yeah. So according to the Mortgage News Daily, today's 30-year fixed is roughly 6.6 national average.
Yeah.
The FHA 30-year fixed is 6.03. So, that's also a national average.
Yeah.
It's a we're going to call it a minimal market, minimal movements, but we're starting to see trends going in the right direction. And I think the other thing that's really starting to impact us is the uncertainty of the economy. We saw the stock market last week take a huge hit. It opened today with a downward spiral again. So I think that I have two buyers that wanted to write offers yesterday, and then they saw that the market's open in Asia, and they're like, "Yeah, no, I was going to pull money from my 401k, and it's
right.
X amount of dollars less." So we're kind of stuck in that little bit of a pickle.
Yeah, like I said, I think we're gonna see us drop a little more. I know people are paying points in different scenarios. I know people are getting some interest rates in the 5% range, which is, I think, is amazing. I think, I keep telling people, I think that's what, and I think in an ideal world, we live for the next foreseeable future somewhere in the 5% range, maybe the high fours if you're lucky. But I think
you're buying down to get to the high fours.
I think you're buying down to get the high fours. I think everything balances out. The economy's in good to decent shape. I think to me, that's where you're seeing the interest rates.
Yeah, absolutely. Days on market have increased from an average of 40 days in 2024 to 48 days in 2025. That tells us properties are staying on the market a bit longer, but also because we're seeing about that 5% difference between list price and sold price, that tells us that people are coming to us as agents who, we're giving you the comparables. We're saying, hey, your house, similar house sold down the street for 400, and you go, well, I'd rather list for 415, see if we can get more. Well, then what happens is you end up dropping your price from 415 to 410 to 405, and then you get that accepted offer, right? So it's a little more than what we suggested, but you're kind of shooting for the stars on that one-off.
Yeah, definitely. I think, buyers are being a little bit more selective. I think the market's definitely telling us that they're not rushing into decision. I've got a buyer right now. I think it still caused him to miss out on a few things that I don't think he should have. But he's like, he waits a couple days. And I'm like, you wait a couple days, it's gonna be gone. Sure enough, happened to us this weekend. He went and saw it on Saturday. We should have wrote the offer on Saturday. I told him that. He waited till Sunday evening. And they got another offer in that they wanted a decision that night. And of course, he's like, well, I don't want to bid. I'm like, I don't blame you there, but this is where, when you find the right one, I get it. There's can be that, and I understand buyers don't always want to make a quick decision, but if you really want to avoid that competition, then you do still need to be able to act somewhat quickly. And I think you need to rely on your agent's advice and asking you back the questions of, is this ideal for you? Is this what you're wanting? How many boxes does it check off?
Yeah. Now let's jump into Northern Illinois. We're talking about Lake and McHenry counties. In Q1 2025, we saw 1,359 single-family homes sold. That is crazy, with the average list price of $435,742. Sold price a little bit different. In Wisconsin, we saw about a $10,000 to $11,000 difference. Mm-hmm. Illinois, $413,400. So we're seeing about a $2,200 difference there. With the days on market, a little bit longer, 52 days. Okay. Now, those are a little bit different. We'll speak on why when we cover 2024 numbers, but yeah.
Well, they're definitely pretty big difference between Wisconsin and Illinois for sure. And well, tell us. I mean, so I've obviously licensed only Wisconsin, Vince's Illinois and Wisconsin. So I'm gonna heavily rely on you. Why, and then what about the 2024 Illinois?
So we'll go into 2024. We'll talk about why here in just a second.
Okay.
Northern Illinois, we saw 1,371 homes sold in 2024. So a little more, not a lot, but a little more single family homes sold. Okay. And the average list price then was $347,201. That is, $90,000 difference roughly. Okay. And the average sold price was $390. So people were underpricing their homes. They're getting multiple offers over list price. Days on market was only 51 days. So days on market were very similar. Okay. There's some caveats to Illinois too, and I think that's what drives the longer hold times, things like that. One, obviously more inventory, right? Okay. So more opportunities to look around and be picky about what you're looking for. Okay. So that drives the higher days on market. Okay. Two, Illinois is an attorney state. Okay. With an attorney state, we have what we call a 5-day holding period. During that 5 days, let's say Brad is buying a house in Illinois, and 123 Main Street comes up, then he likes it, write an offer on it. 3 days later, 123 Jefferson comes up, and he's like, Vince, I like this one better. Brad can easily say, hey, Vince, I'm going to walk away from Main Street. I want to write an offer on Jefferson. It is friggin' nuts, and I've seen it done. Okay, I've also been in a situation where you write 2 offers on 2 different houses for the same buyer in one weekend and see which one sticks. It's like throwing spaghetti at a wall.
Yeah, so those are the you that are in Wisconsin listen to this and have never purchased or sold real estate in Illinois. That one thing, just as a side note, is fascinating to me. Yeah. In Wisconsin, the way it was, you write an offer.
You're in.
If you don't pull that offer and it's accepted, you're under contract.
Right.
So you can really only write on 1 property. Whereas in Illinois, you can go and write on 5 properties if you wanted, get all 5 accepted and be like, nope, I want this one as the buyer and pull the rest.
Correct.
I don't know how I feel about that. I think there's obviously some positives and negatives potentially to both sides of it. Right. So I think sellers can pull in 5 days too. Is that correct?
No,
they cannot. So
the attorneys protect the buyers more than the sellers.
Okay. Well, and I will say in Wisconsin, I could say are similar to theirs. The way our offer purchase is written in Wisconsin, it's definitely buyer protective. Yeah. So I guess there's something there. Yeah. But anyway. Yeah. So basically in Illinois, though, we saw a slight decrease in the number of sales, but a significant increase in both list and sold prices. In 2025. And then the days on market has slightly increased.
One day, right? Okay. Well, yeah, big deal.
So not a big jump at all. Not even really, really noteworthy. I think it's probably partly due to some of the higher end properties coming out of the market this year.
That could be. People have sat on them for a while, want to downsize, we talk about it all the time. Like you got, people empty nesters, divorce, whatever it might be. They're looking to downsize. They're looking to dump their $600,000 property and get into a, $400,000 property, right?
And I don't know where the stats are. I'm assuming it hasn't changed much. This is a benefit to the Wisconsin market, or has been benefit to the Wisconsin market. Is Illinois has been one of the top 10 moved out of states in the last, I think in the top 5 for the last.
Probably, yeah. It's something like that. You're right.
I don't know that that's changed. Well, where do they go? A lot of them come up over the border.
Yeah, Wisconsin, Indiana.
There's many Illinois residents currently, they retain their jobs in northern Illinois. They just drive to them. So I think some of it's good to pay attention to the Illinois real estate because there is definitely an impact there, which I think we usually see in Wisconsin to some degree.
Yes, I agree. Illinois seems to be experiencing, a different dynamic with the higher prices. And a slightly slower market pace compared to Southeast Wisconsin.
Okay. So what does this mean for the buyers and sellers in both regions?
Well, for sellers, it means pricing strategically, right? Mm-hmm. It's more important than ever. While prices have increased, the longer days on market suggests buyers are being more cautious today, right? Mm-hmm. And selective. For buyers, it means they have a bit more time to make that decision, but they also need to be prepared for higher prices, especially in Illinois.
Okay. So, and then the increase in active listings in Wisconsin 25 gives buyers definitely more options.
Right.
It gives that higher average list price.
Yep.
Could be a barrier for some though.
Yep.
And with interest rates still a factor, affordability is definitely gonna be super key. So
Yep.
buyers definitely need to be realistic about what they can afford and potentially look at adjusting their expectations a little bit. Because if you do want to get something a little bit more comfortable with your, especially in your, if you want to bring something down to the lower end of your budget range, you expect to probably get a property where, okay, I might need to do a little bit of work.
Yep.
It's the quote unquote move-in ready, you know, that term's probably gonna get real loose.
Yeah. Well, and there's no bathroom. It's still moving ready. I'll pee in a bucket. Exactly. What we need to factor in the broader economics, the climate, interest rates, consumer confidence, all of which play a huge role in the real estate in both regions today.
Absolutely, absolutely. We cannot.
I added absolutely to
I
the
know,
script
and that's the
for
only
him.
time I'd say twice. It's the only time I've said it today.
Did a good job.
So we're definitely going to continue to monitor these things, keep our listeners updated. We'll do this again after the second quarter to kind of see how things are adjusting. And probably at that point, of course, we typically do like a mid-year.
Yeah, mid-year. Yeah.
Total mid-year comparison.
Yep.
I'm going to be interested to see how these things change. We are in April, by the way, in case anybody doesn't know it. Not only is April across the country the highest new listings month of the year historically, and this week, ironically, is my favorite week of the year, Masters Week.
Yep.
My favorite, me getting out to play golf because I don't think the weather's gonna be that great this week.
Mid-40s.
Average.
Yeah.
As someone who watches the game, to me, it's my favorite turn of the year, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
But it's the highest listing week of the year, which I think is kind of interesting. Which I'll be contributing to that. I'll have one listing at least, might be maybe two. But I don't think the second one's gonna be ready yet. But
I'll definitely have one.
you jumped it a week in advance.
I did.
You had 3 last week, which is
which
was
might
a lot
have 2
one
more
week.
this week, so we'll see.
Yeah.
So just as the market is always evolving, staying informed and working with experienced professionals like ourselves is key for both buyers and sellers in Northern Illinois and Southeast Wisconsin.
Great point, Vince. Any other things before we sign off here that you could think of that people would want to know about the market?
No, I think, if you're thinking about buying or selling, start having that conversation today, even if it is 3 months from now or 6 months from now, have that conversation today to understand, how to be prepared, what to expect, things like that, so that, you're not shell shocked when we jump into it.
I will say this, and we've said this on previous podcasts, we say this to clients all the time. I actually had it finally someone say it to me that I've been working with for a couple years and they're finally ready to buy. And they actually acknowledged, like, hey, thanks for sending me this stuff over the last couple of years. Just keep me informed of the market. I can't tell you, like, so many people are like, oh, don't talk to me until I'm ready to buy. Well, part of your decision on buying and selling, outside of when you're just maybe financially ready or something in your personal life is ready, is sometimes the market can dictate your readiness too. That's what we're here for. Never think you're bothering us. We definitely want to be, I don't care if you're buying in 5 years, I want to keep you informed of what's going on right now. So please never hesitate. Don't think you're bothering us. Please hopefully don't think we're bothering you, but we just want to keep you informed of what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm Vincent Devall with the Eagles Homes team here on the Eagles Nest podcast.
I'm Brad Brewer. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.